This is, something is happening outside. The skies over Baghdad have been illuminated. We're seeing bright flashes going off all over the sky.
The sky continues to be filled with tracers as the anti-aircraft weapons continue to fire. Another huge, loud burst from the ground. More tracers going up into the air over the city. And there's a lot of fire going up. And as I say, these bombs continue to come down occasionally on the ground here. There's no sign that any of the aircraft that are involved in this, not from Iraq, but from the Allied forces have...
I'm Peter Jennings in New York. Just a short while ago, astonishing news from East Germany, where the East German authorities have said, in essence, that the Berlin Wall doesn't mean anything anymore. The wall that the East Germans put up in 1961 to keep its people in will now be breached by anybody who wants to leave. The East German media chief in the Communist Party said a short while ago that anyone who wants to leave East Germany and go anywhere in the world is free to do so. Anyone who wants to leave East Germany and travel to the West and return will need a visa, but visas will be granted, it is said, immediately or at least urgently by police stations all over the country. It is perhaps the most important announcement made in Central Europe since the end of World War II.
You know, it looked at one point as though there was almost an emotional aftershock there at the stadium. We saw some of the players with their wives, and a couple of the wives quite literally in tears, as ball players did what everybody else does in a situation like that. You start to look for your family. You try to get everybody together again. You start counting heads. We're looking at some of that videotape now of some of the ball players with their youngsters. You want to take us through that?
Right. Well, I can see Storm Davis, the Oakland pitcher, and you're exactly right. What had happened, Ted, is that, and there, I believe, is Terry Steinbach. Yes, that is, and his wife, and Mark McGuire, and Fay Vincent is in your picture right now, the commissioner of baseball. It took a while for it to settle in before everybody really realized what had taken place, and then the wives were allowed to go down onto the playing field and join their husbands, and the children came down as well, and everybody, as I say, very orderly filed out of the park. You know, one thing about earthquakes, Ted, is that you're not sure how close to the epicenter you are. So in fact, had we been at the epicenter of this quake tonight, not this particular quake, but let's say that there had been a small earthquake at Candlestick Park in the neighborhood of 2.8 or 3.2, there would have been there would have been no damage here, very little anyplace else. So I think that was perhaps the sense of what people had. You begin to feel you were at the epicenter, and if you were, this would have been a very, very small quake where it centered near Candlestick Park. You have no idea, of course, where the epicenter was. And as I stated before, once I knew it was in the 6 range, you knew as a Californian that it had to be 75 to 100 miles away.
There's Mr. Mandela, Mr. Nelson Mandela, a free man taking his first steps into a new South Africa.
In the face of adversity, today lost his battle with AIDS. He died today of a respiratory illness related to the disease. The 18-year-old hemophiliac had been hospitalized in Indianapolis since March 29th. Ryan contracted AIDS in 1984 when he received a tainted blood clotting agent during a transfusion. Today, a family spokeswoman said the teenager showed the world how to be truly...
Repeating once again our top story, Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev has been removed from power, and there are tanks now in the streets of Moscow. Vice President Gennady Yanayev says he has taken over as acting president as the head of state of a special state committee. You're watching live pictures from Moscow this morning. He has declared a state of emergency in individual localities. It is not clear what that means. Russian President Boris Yeltsin says the action is illegal.
Might never have surfaced if someone hadn't picked up his home video camera. We've all seen the pictures of Los Angeles police officers beating a man they had just pulled over. The city's police chief said today he will support criminal charges against some of the men. Here's ABC's Gary Shepard.
The 3 police officers facing felony criminal charges were among a group of 15 who stopped a 25-year-old black man last Saturday night, then beat him, kicked him, and clubbed him, unaware that an amateur photographer was recording the incident on videotape. Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates looked at the tape and said he thinks assault with a deadly weapon will be one of the charges.
In our review, we find that the officers struck him with batons between 53 and 56 times. One officer rendered 6 kicks and one officer 1 kick.
Civil rights organizations say the Los Angeles Police Department has a history of brutality and misconduct that goes back a quarter of a century, including one incident that sparked the Watts riots. So far this year, there have been more than 125 complaints of police misconduct filed with watchdog organizations.
We no longer want to have to wake up each morning not knowing what fear to expect next. Today, we are not sure that the police is there to protect us.
But Chief Gates today called the LAPD a model department and said he has no plans to resign. Gary Shepard, ABC News, Los Angeles.
In the meantime, don't go near this area, south central Los Angeles at Florence and Normandy, because there is still no police presence there, and a lot of people trying to get through that intersection have been assaulted with rocks and bottles and sticks. So as long as it's an ongoing situation, you best advise to stay clear.
Can we, Ann, and help me out here, briefly recap what we've seen? We've seen a liquor store and a gas station continue to be looted. We've seen,
can you go back to the
we've seen rocks and I presume bottles and various things thrown at cars, school buses, RTD buses.
Did you see it, Dave?
Two people dragged from cars in this intersection.
Okay, Dave,
one
go to the right
woman
and
dragged
down.
from her car and ended up on the street, and then we saw the driver of that truck pulled out of his car and beat up. Now there's another car stopped.
All that car just moved into that intersection, and as it did, well, you can see what's happening to it right now.
Are there people inside that car?
The black car, the
Yes.
second lane, yes. And it's
Oh, my
Months ago, Anita Hill appeared before a Senate committee and accused Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas of sexually harassing her. The whole country watched the hearings on television, and when they were over, Clarence Thomas went to the Supreme Court, and Anita Hill went home.
The wrath of Andrew during and after his South Florida strike. Good evening. I'm Barbara Sloan.
And I'm John Hebrig. Not since 1926 has a hurricane hit Miami as ferociously as Hurricane Andrew. And few have been as bad anywhere in the country during this century. Many U.S. storms have killed more than 8 people Andrew's known to have taken, but his legacy for damage, destruction, and widespread vexation may go unchallenged for years.
Welcome to a special edition of Larry King Live. The North American Free Trade Agreement, a deal to knock down trade barriers between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. Good or bad for Americans? Tonight, Vice President Al Gore meets Ross Perot as Larry King and CNN present the NAFTA debate.
Well, as you can see, the parts of the building have collapsed. The fire has indeed engulfed the vast majority of this compound that has been the
Bonnie,
site.
the entire roof is gone.
The entire roof is gone. Mike, what else can you
Yes.
tell us? Any sign of firefighting equipment? I know.
No, none whatsoever. And there's our shot from, you'll remember, Bonnie, what we refer to as farm cam. That's looking from the north side into the compound. Apparently, the north side is not involved yet. But it appears the rest of the compound is filled with that orange fire and acrid black smoke.
Also, within the past 10 days, past week, federal authorities surrounded the compound, very close to the compound, with razor-sharp concertina wire to prevent people from running out. That may, in this case, prove to be hazardous.
Still no sign of anyone coming out, Bonnie.
Mike, at this point, the latest figures we have is that there are 95 people inside. Of them, 17 below the age of 10, a total of 25 below the age of 18.
Now for you once again, if you've just joined us, an explosion underground in the garage section of the World Trade Center in New York City has killed now 3 people, according to the New York Port Authority, and has injured at least 150 people. Hundreds of people, as we speak, are still being evacuated from the twin-story towers of the structure, and a hotel in the complex as well at the southern tip of Manhattan Island. There were reports earlier of some people being trapped under the rubble. We do understand that's where at least 2 of the fatalities were found. There are still people trapped in the 2 towers, as we say, but EMS and firefighting personnel are at least to the 85th floor of the Twin Towers evacuating these people. They're also being taken off the roof by helicopters.
In Los Angeles, and it all began with charges laid by L.A. police against O.J. Simpson in connection with the brutal slaying of his ex-wife Nicole and 25-year-old Ron Goldman. Simpson, charged with the 2 counts of murder, was supposed to surrender to L.A. police at 2 Eastern this afternoon, but failed to show up. He is now considered a fugitive from justice, and police are on the hunt. A car left O.J. Simpson's house, apparently on its way to the police station. Unconfirmed rumors had Simpson himself driving. According to L.A. Police Department, Simpson was indeed supposed to be on his way. Things went wrong from there.
The Los Angeles Police Department right now is actively searching for Mr. Simpson.
It's a very serious situation here, and I can tell you one that is hard to believe with my own eyes.
Conan, how would these people know? Listening to their radio what's going on?
That's the only way, Paul, that I could figure out that the word is caught on. But all these people know that what is happening. They have to. Some are actually entering the number 1 and number 2 lanes, yelling, waving their hands, trying to be part of something that is quite frankly very, very awful.
Inside this vehicle, this Ford Bronco in Orange County right now, we understand from the CHP officer is O.J. Simpson. He is armed with a gun. Apparently he's holding a gun to...
Declaring all-out war, the Republican whip attacked the president at a secret meeting with lobbyists. Over lunch in this Republican club near the Capitol, Newt Gingrich told business lobbyists that Clinton Democrats are the enemy of normal Americans. As first reported in today's Washington Post, Gingrich promised the lobbyists that if Republicans win control of the House and Senate, they will then use their newfound subpoena power to spend the next 2 years investigating corruption in the Clinton administration.
I do not know of any administration in modern times with as many different potential scandals all around it. I did not refer to the president. I didn't refer to his wife. I didn't refer to any individual. I said the total behavior of the administration is a threat to the American...
For a city that survives by the car, this earthquake has struck at its very soul. Its motorways were empty this morning. 9 of them are cut in 2, fractured, or simply too dangerous to drive on. For a city that has no rail system and 7 million commuters every day, that's a disaster. It's just after 8 o'clock in the morning, and normally these motorways would be packed with millions of commuters heading into central Los Angeles. This morning, they are almost completely deserted. Here and there, a reminder of how close some came to death. The lorries and cars will be destroyed when the bridge is toppled. At a major junction, machines tear away at a fallen strip of motorway, one punching holes, the other chewing the steel rods that once supported the road. The scale of the activity and the scale of the damage here is extraordinary. To give you some idea of it, this is one of the main motorways into Los Angeles. The earthquake hit and caused a clean break right along this motorway, with the other section just falling down on top of another road into LA.
Explosion caused, because here's now what we are starting to learn about the succession, or what someone obviously hoped would be a succession of explosions. The first bomb that was in the federal building did go off. It did the damage that you see right there. The second explosive was found and diffused. The third explosive that was found, and they are working on right now as we speak, I understand, both the second and third explosives, if you can imagine this, were larger than the first. So try to imagine 2- or 3-fold happening what we've already seen there. It is just incredible to think that there was that much heavy artillery that was somehow moved into the downtown Oklahoma City Federal Building.
2 other explosive devices were found that were not detonated, and they were larger than the first.
I think he said another bomb.
Oh my God, another bomb.
We just saw, if you were watching there was a white pickup truck backing a trailer into the scene here. They're trying to move people out of the way so they can get it in. Appears to be the Oklahoma County Bomb Squad. It's their bomb disposal unit, essentially, is what it is, and it is what they would use to, if the report that we gave you just a few moments ago turns out to be correct, that they have found a second explosive device of some kind inside this building. They'll back that trailer down there, and the bomb squad folks will go in, and they will use that that trailer. You see the bucket on the back there, sort of, this is how they would transport the explosive device away from this populated area to try to do something.
Well, here in Atlanta, joy and celebration quickly turned to fear and death after an explosion in the Olympic Centennial Park early this morning. Authorities say it was a crude pipe bomb that exploded near the park's main entertainment stage. Thousands of people were enjoying a free concert at the time, At least 2 of them are dead. One of them, a Turkish national, and at least 110 people are injured. Police did receive warnings before that explosion. One came from a security guard who noticed a suspicious package. The other, a 911 call placed 2 blocks away. Neither warning came in time to evacuate the crowd. The Centennial Park is located in the heart of the city, about a mile from the Olympic Village where the athletes are staying.
For all the viewers joining us at now 1 a.m. Eastern Time, New York time in the United States, we have all evening long been covering an unfolding story that took a very, very tragic turn, with confirmation from Buckingham Palace tonight that the world has lost Princess Diana at age 36.
Impeached by the House of Representatives.
On this vote, the yeas are 228, the nays are 206. Article 1 is adopted.
In the wake of the unprecedented vote against an elected president, Mr. Clinton vows to continue doing the work of the American people.
It's what I've tried to do for 6 years. It's what I intend to do for 2 more until the last hour of the last day of my
In the early hours of October 7th, 1998, in Laramie, Wyoming, a senseless act of hate led to the death of a young man with a promising future. His death affected the nation and the world.
Police say Shepard was lured from this Laramie night spot. He was later robbed, beaten, and left for dead, tied to this fence post outside of town.
Matthew Shepard died from injuries he received in a vicious beating.
Authorities charged 2 men, Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson, with Shepard's murder.
Urging Congress to expand a federal hate crimes law following the beating death of a gay student in
Good evening,
Wyoming.
everyone. The reaction of so many people today was, oh no, not again. Another high school, Columbine High in Littleton, Colorado, this time on the edge of Denver. It has been a horror. The spokesman for the local sheriff's office speaks of as many as 25 fatalities inside the school. The gunman, fellow students who rushed the school and opened fire for reasons we do not know yet, for reasons we may never know. 2 of the young killers are dead. The sheriff says it looks like a suicide.
How could the omission of 2 simple digits affect the destiny of all humankind? Y2K, what does it mean? How will it affect you, your family, your community, your nation, our world? Y2K, how can we prepare individually? How can we work together as global neighbors to make the best of whatever may occur before and after January 1st of the year 2000?
Don Daler, ABC's Don Daler, who is on the scene. Don, just give me some description again of what you can see now.
What we're seeing, it appears that there is more and more fire and smoke enveloping the very top of the building. And as fire crews are descending on this area, it does not appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
Oh my God.
That looks like a second plane.
I did not see a plane go in. That just exploded.
We just saw another plane coming in from the side.
You did. That was out of
Yes, and that's the second explosion. You could see the plane come in just from the right-hand side of the screen. So this looks like it is some sort of a concerted effort to attack the World Trade Center.
Realize tonight entire towns have been wiped out around Gulfport, Mississippi. A local mayor says this is our tsunami. Underwater, here in New Orleans tonight, after the giant storm came the rising waters. Over 80% of the city is flooded. And a survivor story. One man clings to a tree when the storm surge hits and now picks through what's left of his home and his life.
11 p.m. on the East Coast. We're back on the air, and we have news. There will be young children in the White House for the first time since the Kennedy generation. An African-American has broken the barrier as old as the Republic. An astonishing candidate, an astonishing campaign, a seismic shift in American politics.
Here's a better look. Now we can really look at it much more closely. This appears to be a U.S. Airways plane that you can see. My colleague Tom Costello, who covers aviation for us, is joining me right now from Washington, D.C. And Tom, what have you been able to gather in terms of new information?
Peter, I've got a call into the FAA. They don't have anything immediate, but that's because this is breaking as we speak. This is it looks to me like you're looking at a regional jet, and this is really one of the mainstays of U.S. Airways as they fly into and out of New York. Listen, I think you have to look at the fact that they've got one door open in the front, and thus far it looks like the plane, the actual fuselage, is above water. You've got to right now be worried about the people inside, if there are people inside, and exposure to that very frigid water in Hudson Bay. You see there, it looks to me like you've got New York City Fire Department boats that are right alongside that plane, but that certainly looks like a regional jet to me. They're made by both Bombardier and also by Embraer. They can carry anywhere from 75 to 150, depending on the size. I'm not sure what size this one is, but it is a mainstay of operations going into and out of LaGuardia Airport.
9 minutes into this program, we ought to get a definition. What is swine flu?
Well, swine flu occurs when a virus that lives normally on pigs somehow mutates and changes and becomes available to the humans that take care of those pigs. So we believe that sometime in very early April, maybe the end of March, in a small town in Mexico, some of these viruses, which again very commonly live on pigs, jumped into humans, and they mutated in a way that scares us. Because now that we've been able to look at this virus carefully, it seems to have an ability to drill into human cells that's different than other viruses that we have examined in the past. And once, of course, these viruses get into human cells, they replicate themselves, they trick our bodies into allowing them to replicate, and they explode and cause the clinical syndrome that we see.
Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
We're following this breaking news story, a school shooting that has taken place at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. We are learning new details. I want to bring in Meredith Artley. She is managing editor of CNN.com, and she just spoke with an eyewitness who was inside of the school. I have to warn our viewers, I understand that some of the details about what she actually witnessed, it's pretty gruesome. Meredith, what did she convey to you?
Hi, Suzanne. She conveyed to me that she was in a meeting this morning. She said it was around 9:35, and there were about 7 people in the room, and it was a meeting regarding one of her kids. She has children at the school, and she volunteers at the school as well. And she heard, she described it as a pop.
I'm Michael Sam. I'm a football player, and I'm gay.